The Wife is First. Volume 2, Campaign in the Land Under Heaven. Chapter 61, Hidden Chamber. The study was also turned into a mess, with even the paperweight and brush washer on the table were all looted. Mu Hanjiang walked to a painting hanging on the wall and straightened the damaged parts. When he saw clearly what the painting was, he couldn't help but felt regretful. Zhou Shui Sanren's paintings are hard to find and actually worth thousands of gold, but it was just ruined like this. Jing Xiao came over to look at it, but it was just a landscape picture, there was nothing special about it. Mu Hanjiang saw that he didn't understand, so he explained gently. Zhou Shui Sanren was one of the 16 Sanren from the former dynasty. During that period, the reverence towards calligraphy and painting was at the highest level since ancient times, and these 16 Sanren were the most excellent talents in them. They often studied paintings and calligraphy together, but due to the chaos of war, very few of their works survived at the end of that period. Mu Hanjiang took off the damaged scroll and rolled it up carefully. When they got back, he would look for an expert to repair it. Maybe it could be restored to its former state. This painting is much more valuable than any precious jewelry. Why didn't the king of Southwest bring it with him? This king of Southwest of this generation is ignorant. Follow me. Jing Xiao pulled his prince consort towards a small corner of the study that had been partitioned off. The study room of a wealthy family would always have a small area like this with a bed or a divan to take rest at, and this study was no exception. However, this area seemed to be a lot smaller than usual, that it could only accommodate a single bed. The bed was messy, with even the jade pieces on the pillow had been plucked out. It looked quite miserable. I think the servants in the Southwest Palace also took a lot of things. Mu Hanjiang said while looking at the pull rope for the curtain, which was missing its gold hook. When a tree falls and all the monkeys in it will scatter, everyone has to find a way to survive. Jing Xiao smiled and pulled off the entire curtain, revealing an uneven wall. Jing Xiao jumped onto the bed and said to the person behind him, "Jun Qing, step back." Mu Hanjiang followed his words and exited the small rest area. Then he saw Jing Xiao lifted his leg and kicking hard the uneven wall. With a bang, the wall crumbled under the kick, creating a large hole as wood stubble flew everywhere. Only then did Mu Hanjiang realize that the wall was actually made of wood, with only a thin layer of bricks laid over on the surface. When the dust settled, it appeared that there was a room inside, but it was so dark that Mu Hanjiang couldn't see what's inside it clearly. Jing Xiao took out the fire starter that he brought with him and lit the candlestick on the small table. He squeezed into the hole first and quickly lit the candles in the small room before he stretched out his hands to help his prince consort get inside. Mu Hanjiang looked at the small room in front of him. It had no windows and it was obviously a secret chamber. There was a 5-chi-tall black Buddha statue placed on the high platform, with several praying mats placed underneath it. In the middle of the room was a square bronze cauldron and wooden shelves lined up in its walls. Many things on the shelf were already gone, but there were still 4 or 5 picture scrolls in the porcelain barrel, several long boxes still laid on the wooden shelf, and some scattered jewelry were still in the bronze cauldron, though they were broken pearls and jade shards everywhere. Jing Xiao went over to the wooden shelves and looked through the several long boxes. They were all very old boxes. Inside them were various exquisite daggers and long swords. One of the boxes was pressed down to the very bottom. That box was very shabby. When he opened it, he found a weapon that appeared to have become rusty. It was a narrow and short knife. When Jing Xiao saw this, he couldn't help but feel relieved. Fortunately, in this life, this Southwest king was still that ignorant Southwest king. "Xiao Xiao, come and look at this." Mu Hanjiang's voice sounded quite excited. Jing Xiao picked up the old knife in the box and leaned over to look at the scroll in the hands of his prince consort. It was a strange painting. There were all kinds of flowers, birds, insects, and fish on it, but each one had a different style. Having been put together in a single scroll, it made for a very strange artwork. This. What is it? 9 songs and 16 poets. This is a collaborated work of the 16 Sanrens. Mu Hanzhong was overjoyed. In all their lives, the 16 Sanrens had only painted this one painting together. It truly was a treasure that should be passed down from the previous generation to the next. When the previous dynasty passed, this work had been thought to have been lost for good. Unexpectedly, it ended up in the hands of the king of Southwest, who had abandoned it in the Southwest Palace. This painting is worth 1,000 taels of gold at the very least. The king of Southwest is running for his life. Calligraphy works and paintings aren't things that he could easily take with him. Jing Shao smiled and rolled up the picture that looked quite weird to him. Then he took out the rusty knife in his hand and said, "You should look at what this is." Mu Hanzhong took it. It appeared to be very rusty. He attempted to pull out the knife, but he couldn't, as the handle seemed to have rusted together with the sheath. Jing Shao put his hand over Mu Hanzhong's and lightly pressed on the side of the sheath. With a click, a clasp was opened and the blade was slowly drawn out. The scarlet knife surface looks like gold but was not golden. It was like jade but not really jade but more like agate. Even in the dark room, it still glinted as bright as red clouds. It's so beautiful. Even though Mu Hanzhong was not very fond of weapons, he still couldn't help but admire it. There were no carvings on the blade, but such smooth and flowing blade was already very beautiful without them. Jing Shao plucked a loose strand of hair from his prince consort's shoulder and placed it on the blade, then said, "Come and blow air on it." Mu Hanzhong glanced at him and said with a smile, "Blowing air to cut a strand of hair in two is just a rumor. Do you think that there really is such a weapon in this world? Then why don't we make a bet? If it really exists, what would I get for the win?" Jing Shao smiled and leaned into his ear. Seeing his determination, Mu Hanzhong became curious and actually blew on that strand of hair. "Hey, we haven't agreed on what the prize yet." Jing Shao hurriedly tried to take the knife back, but he was not fast enough. The hair strand touched the thin blade and immediately broke into two, then slowly fell down. "It's really a treasured sword." Mu Hanzhong was amazed that there was such a treasured weapon in the world. He turned to look at Jing Shao, only to see he was man glaring indignantly at him. He couldn't help but laugh and stretched out his hand to pinch his face. "Why are you acting like a child?" Humph. Not only could this knife cut a strand of hair by merely blowing air at it, but it can also cut iron like mud. Jing Shao didn't get any benefit and was very annoyed. He took the knife and slashed it at the base of the dark Buddha statue. With a swishing sound, a lotus petal fell out of the platform. As they looked at the cut part, the two of them became stunned on the spot. Underneath the black outer shell, the platform was a dazzling solid gold inside. This 5-chi-tall Buddha statue was actually made of pure gold. The golden Buddha was so huge that the Southwest King didn't manage to carry it away, so the two of them naturally couldn't keep it for themselves. They called soldiers to take the Buddha statue away and for it to be immediately escorted back to the capital together with the ancient bronze cauldron. Although they couldn't take the gold, the ancient paintings and swords could be taken away secretly. "I heard from the Right Protectorate General that you know how to use a knife." Jing Shao pulled his prince consort out of the secret chamber to avoid looking at the big Buddha again and felt regretful. He now knew how the king of Southwest felt when he escaped, knowing that there was such a valuable object here but couldn't move and take it with him. No wonder he even forgot about his legitimate grandson. It must be really hard to calm down. "I only know a few moves, but I can't use inner chi. I just knew enough to protect myself in times of crisis." Mu Hanzhong didn't think that the little bit of martial skills he had was very practical. "You will carry this knife with you from now on." Jing Shao wiped the sword clean and hung it on his prince consort's waist. "This treasured weapon is useless in my hand. Why waste its illustrious fame on me?" Mu Hanzhong rubbed the ancient handle of the sword and pursed his lips slightly. He really liked this knife, but it would be a pity to waste it in the hands of someone with meager skills in swordmanship. "This knife ought to be yours." Jing Shao smiled. He came to the secret chamber this time to specifically look for this knife. It looked golden but not actually gold, it was like jade but not actually jade, and as beautiful as agate. This blade was one of the 9 treasured weapons from ancient times, and it was known as Hanjiang. Not long after, the soldiers who came to carry the huge Buddha came in a hurry to reporting to His Highness, there is a secret tunnel under the enormous Buddha. Jing Shao frowned. In the previous life, he had killed the king of Southwest before the latter could escape. Therefore, Jing Shao never found the location of the palace's secret tunnel. This time the king of Southwest fled early without realizing that he had left traces behind. If they searched this secret passage, they would definitely be able to track him down. Jing Shao immediately took some people with him to go through the secret passage and investigate it. The secret passage was narrow and going through it took time. They traced the path all the way until dusk fell and finally made a discovery. The secret path led directly to a dry well 10 li outside of city wall on the east side. The king of Southwest must have been transporting something heavy at the time, as the ruts on the road were still very distinct. It was going straight to the direction to the east. They must have gone to seek refuge with the king of Southeast. The items in their carriage should be gold, silver and precious jewelries. Mu Hanjiang speculated. Your Highness, this one will take 1,000 cavalry to pursue him. We will surely capture that old man alive. Zhao Meng said eagerly. Jing Shao pondered for a moment, then raised his hand to stop Zhao Meng's words. There's no need to chase. Your Highness, why not? Zhao Meng didn't understand. The king of the Southwest couldn't have brought plenty of people with him. It should be easy to eliminate him at this time. Your Highness, if one cut the grass without eradicating the roots, it will certainly cause troubles in the future. If the king of Southwest is not dealt with, once he escapes to the southeast, it would be like releasing a tiger back to its mountain. Hao Das Hao, who had finished making the arrangement with the main troops, came in with the little tiger cub. Va Wu. Xiao Huang immediately agreed when it heard that the tiger had returned to the mountain, but its big eyes never left the bag on Hao Das Hao's waist. It even stretched its claws out towards it. Mu Hanjiang took Xiao Huang over and rubbed the fur on its head and said, that mountain doesn't belong to the king of Southwest. The ancients have said that one mountain cannot contain 2 tigers. Hao Das Hao nodded. Then are we just letting him go? About that, this Imperii prince have already made the decision. Jing Shao didn't think much about this and waved his hand for them to withdraw. There are many courtyards in this palace, go and choose where you want to rest in. Upon hearing this, the Right Protectorate General immediately ran out excitedly. The small bamboo buildings in the back courtyard looked very interesting and he had long been interested to explore them. The Left Protectorate General looked at his running figure with an expressionless face and followed him out silently. After everyone dispersed, Jing Shao immediately took out a brush and paper to write a letter of high priority as fast as possible to report the news that Yun Cheng had been captured and that the king of Southwest had fled to the southeast. Mu Hanjiang watched him write quietly. The little tiger cub in his arms felt comfortable with his pets. It lay on its back to sleep soundly within his warm arm. Zhao Meng didn't understand Jing Shao's actions, but Mu Hanjiang did. The Southwest king had already committed treason. If the Southeast king sheltered him, it would be the same as them rebelling together. Their army's morale was at its height and the timing was perfect to storm the Southeast. It was just. Why are you in such a hurry to attack the Southeast? Mu Hanjiang looked at the various hints pointed in the letter. When Emperor Hongzheng read this urgent missive with high priority, he would definitely issue an urgent imperial edict for Jing Shao to directly attack the southeast immediately. Many of Jing Shao's actions were very strange. Others may not notice it, but he was beside him every day and so, he could see everything clearly. Just like that secret chamber today, for instance, if he didn't know about it in advance, how could he have found it so quickly? End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 2, Campaign in the Land Under Heaven. Chapter 62, Relief. I'm anxious to go back to celebrate the new year. Jing Shao responded without raising his head. They would have to fight the southeast sooner or later anyways. Instead of dragging the army halfway home only to be sent out again with an imperial edict, they might as well solve the issue all at once. There was no benefit in dragging out the fight with these two fiefdoms at all. This was because the three armies of Shu, Hunan, and Guizhou would have to be handed back after the war, and the mountains were high and the journey far. It was no issue with him if these three armies left, but the military power of Jiangnan was very important to keep in mind. Moreover, his experiences from the previous life proved to be very useful this time. The southwest was conquered in just 2 months. If conquering the southeast could be done within the same speed, then they would really be able to make it back to the capital for the new year. Besides, there's something very important that he need to see through this winter. Looking down at the treasure sword at his waist, Mu Hanzhong pursed his lips and asked, "Today, how did you know about that secret chamber?" "That." Jing Shao's hand that was writing paused. Damn it! He had just wanted to show off in front of his prince consort today. He totally got carried away and forgot about this point. Noticing how he had paused, he went back to writing while carefully keeping his facial expression neutral. Then he said, "That's one of the imperial secrets that the grand ancestor left behind. In any case, the imperial family's grand ancestor was a wise and powerful man. It was only made sense to push this matter onto him." Mu Hanzhong mused as he looked at Jing Shao's handsome profile quietly. The matter of the secret chamber did make sense after all. This southwest palace was originally built by the grand ancestors' people at the founding of the country. But how about the information about the Shengjing Pass and Tiger's Teeth, Crane's Beak Pass? The third brocade pouch he had given to Zhao Meng had a note that he had written based exactly on what Jing Shao had said, which all proved to be true. However, he hadn't seen Jing Shao receive any information from any spies in the last few days. Then, he opened his lips and pursed them again. He didn't want Jing Shao to divulge about things he wasn't ready to talk about. It was inappropriate for him to keep asking about this matter. Mu Hanzhong's eyes darkened. After Jing Shao finished writing the letter, he realized that his family's prince consort had not spoken for a long time. He looked up to directly gaze at that pair of beautiful eyes which were currently pensive. He sighed softly and reached out to hold him into his arms. Meow. The little tiger cub in Mu Hanzhong's arms opened its eyes because it had been jostled. It gave a small cry and rubbed himself in its owner's arms. Jing Shao grabbed it and threw it on the couch. The little tiger had grown a lot in the past 2 months, and Jun Qing would definitely get tired if he holds it for a long time. Mu Hanzhong chuckled lightly, "Why are you always picking a fight with it?" Jing Shao rubbed his face against that warm chest in dissatisfaction and spoke, "When it comes to some things, it's not that I don't want to tell them to you, but it's more like, I can't explain them clearly myself." Mu Hanzhong slowly stroked the head that was rubbing against his chest. "All right, I understand." He couldn't be any clearer about Jing Shao's feelings for him, but people's hearts would always yearn for more. Sure enough, it was him who was just being greedy. Jing Shao sighed. His prince consort tended to overthink things. He was afraid that if he didn't clarify the matter, the other man would keep on mulling over it excessively. But then, even he himself didn't understand such a mysterious thing as his return from the past. Even if he wanted to talk about it, he wouldn't know where to start. After a long silence, just when Mu Hanzhong thought that Jing Shao was done talking about this, a muffled voice suddenly came from his chest. "Jun Qing, do you believe about the supernatural in this world?" Mu Hanzhong moved slightly away to look at him. "I once had a dream," Jing Shao frowned. Sometimes he also wondered whether the other life he had experienced was nothing but a dream, only that the dream was too long, felt too real, and so unbelievable. That dream gave me a lot of ideas, such as how inadvisable it was to fight the barbarians in the north, or how the southwest defenses were laid out, and so on and so forth. However, there was no guarantee whether these things were actually true or not, so. Mu Hanjiang looked at him in surprise. He thought it was because the source of information was something he absolutely couldn't talk about, but it turned out, it was from a dream. But then, if it was really a warning from the heavens, all this would really make sense. After all, no matter how good the source of information was, it was not possible for it to be so detailed. I didn't mean to hide it from you. It's just that this sort of things is really too unbelievable that I don't understand it myself. Jing Shao looked straight at the person in his arms but secretly regretted it in his heart. He should have just made up some random excuse again rather than say it directly like this. If he didn't believe him or misunderstand him, what should he do? It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. I'm just afraid that you'll think too much about it. He scratched his head in distress. He could handle everything else, but in front of his own prince consort, he would always end up doing something stupid. Mu Hanjiang looked at him in silence for a long time, then he slowly opened his mouth and said softly like a sigh, "Perhaps it was indeed the heavens will to offer you guidance in the dark." Jing Shao's eyes suddenly widened. He actually believed it? "Jun Qing, you believe me?" "I believe you." Mu Hanjiang's lips slowly curled up. This kind of secret should be kept hidden deep within his heart and should not be shared even to his parents and brothers, but he shared it with him just to prevent him from thinking too much. Such a thoughtful man, how could he not be worthy of his trust? He said he believed him instead of saying he believed in his words. Jing Shao carefully thought about the meaning behind his words and felt that his heart was overflowing. He couldn't help searching for those soft lips to kiss them fiercely. With that lingering kiss, all the knots in Jing Shao's heart dissipated at this moment. From the moment that Jing Shao tasted this kiss, he finally understood how people could get intoxicated with just a kiss. "My love, if only I can exchange your heart with mine so that we could understand how deeply we feel for each other." By the time the kiss ended, both of them were slightly panting. Jing Shao looked at the man in his arms whose face was flushed red. Those long and delicate eyelashes trembled slightly. It was as if they were scratching at his heart, tickling him and making him felt warm. He couldn't help but to inch closer and take those red lips once again. One hand restlessly and slowly explored the area between the lapels of Mu Hanjiang robes and easily undid the ties on them as he had done many times before. He caressed the smooth and moist skin of his chest with calloused hands, rubbing and pinching those small buds. Mu Hanjiang trembled and gently pushed him away. A thought flashed through his mind, as if there was something else that he was supposed to ask him. "I had something else that I wanted to ask but I can't seem to remember it." Jing Shao curled his lips and bent his fingers to pinch a small bean, then pulled it gently. Mu Hanjiang gasped. He was going to say something but Jing Shao immediately covered his lips. After a while, when he came back to his senses, he had already been placed on the soft divan. Jing Shao didn't give the man beneath him any chance to protest. He quickly stripped him of the clothes on his chest before he covered his lips once again. No, someone might come in. They were currently in the main hall of the Southwest Palace, and someone could come in at any time to bring report. Mu Hanjiang glanced at the open door and became nervous. Seeing that he was distracted, Jing Shao took the opportunity to caress him, grasping his most sensitive organ. "Ah!" Mu Hanjiang bit his lip to suppress the moan that came out of his mouth and glared at Jing Shao. However, the man on top of him increased the pressure and he could only gasp in return. "Jun Qing." Jing Shao straddled him, rubbing against him through the fabric of his clothes. He leaned over and took one ear into his mouth, biting it lightly. His heavy breath felt warm on Mu Hanjiang's neck, making the area to be gradually stained pink. Fortunately, Jing Shao felt that his armor was too cumbersome and took it off as soon as he entered the room. He could now easily reach into his waist pocket to take out a small box. "Not here." Mu Hanjiang was still nervous, wondering what he would do if someone came in suddenly. This was the only thing he was worrying at this time, and the matter that he wanted to ask Jing Xiao about earlier had been completely thrown at the back of his mind. Jing Xiao smiled and turned him over so that he was lying on his stomach on the top of the divan and wouldn't be able to see the door again. Then he whispered in his wife's ear, "As long as you moan a little louder, those people will naturally won't dare to come in." As he said this, he pushed the fingers dipped in ointment into his body. You. Ah. Mu Hanjiang was caught off guard when Jing Xiao suddenly pushed his fingers into him. He wanted to glare at him, but he couldn't see his face since he was lying on his stomach. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Zhang Lang was standing just outside the door. When he heard the movement inside, the corner of his mouth twitched. He stopped the scribe who was about to go in to deliver documents and quickly sent people away. Then he slowly closed the door of the main hall, ensuring not to glance inside even for a bit. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Don't worry, Zhang Lang is guarding outside. Jing Xiao saw that the person under him was still nervous. How could he enjoy himself if he continued to be like this? He couldn't help feeling a little distressed and didn't want to tease him anymore. So, he kissed those beautiful shoulder blades and comforted him with a soft voice. Seeing that his wife was gradually relaxing, he felt relieved and caressed that flexible waist with confidence. Then he parted those alluring round globes. He bent slightly and thrust it in. Mu Hanjiang immediately tightened his grip on the round pillow beside his neck. In the past half-month, they had been busy fighting in the war, and then they had been worried about his injury that the two of them had not been able to be intimate in a while. Now the knot in their hearts had been untangled and their bodies were joined together once again. When the pain eased, he only felt incomparable pleasure. Feeling that his inner thoughts were a bit embarrassing, Mu Hanjiang buried his face in the pillow. Fortunately, he couldn't see his own expression in this position. Naturally, such an adorable action wouldn't escape Jing Xiao's eyes, which curved up in a grin. Pulling that body up, he thrust it in much more deeper. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Zhang Lang stood just outside the door. People who practice martial arts have sharp hearing and keen eyesight. Squelching sounds filled his ears incessantly, and moans would spill out of the room once in a while, making his whole face and ears blush. As the guard on duty, he was not allowed to leave his station and could only take a couple of steps further away. Still, he couldn't help but imagine in his head the scene of what was going on inside the room. All three generations of his family were imperial physicians, and they had heard plenty about the bedroom matters of the imperial family. It was truly rare to find genuine affection between married couples of the imperial family like that of Prince Cheng and Prince Consort Cheng. Looking at the sun which was gradually setting on the horizon, young Zhang Lang couldn't help but feel a little sad and frustrated. This time when he returned to the capital, his father would probably want to discuss his marriage arrangement. Unfortunately, he was a legitimate son. If only he could also marry a male wife like Prince Consort Cheng, how great would that be? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. After being intimate, Jing Xiao held the man who was still trembling slightly and took a bath with him. After they had changed into clean undergarments, he had the guards clean up the inner room before he carried his prince consort to the soft divan to rest. Mu Hanjiang was very tired indeed. Leaning against Jing Xiao's chest and breathing in his clean and fresh scent, he quickly fell asleep. Looking at the sleeping person in his arms, Jing Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. In this way, Jun Qing should have forgotten about what he wanted to ask. He was afraid that he would ask if the dream was from the wedding night and doubt him again. It would be bad if he suspected that Jing Xiao was just being good to him because of a reminder from the heavens. Wow! Xiao Huang, who had been kicked to the ground by Jing Xiao at the beginning, was dissatisfied with being put on the edge of the soft divan and scratched at the bottom of Jing Xiao's trousers. Jing Xiao rubbed the little tiger's head with his toes, but his foot was grabbed and gnawed on by the little tiger with all its might. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. For a period of time, it was peaceful in the southwest fiefdom. After fighting for 2 months, they could finally take a breather. The soldiers and officers were all very happy, and of course the happiest one was Jing Shao. Because he discovered that the small bamboo buildings in the back were all places where the Southwest King kept beauties. Each bamboo building was designed differently and one of them was particularly special. The entire room was covered with cushions, and it should be a place exclusively made for the Southwest King to have his fun. Jing Shao ordered people to clean the place and put in new cushions and blankets. Then, he would pull his prince consort with him every day and come over there to have some fun. Mu Hanzhong happily went along with him at the beginning but found that he couldn't get used to it. The more he indulged Jing Shao, the more he realized that his husband was someone who would definitely take advantage if given the chance. Thus, he refused to be pulled to that room during daytime. Later on, he got angry and refused to stay there anymore, especially when he noticed that the Right Protectorate General would shift his eyes and look anywhere else except at him. Mu Hanzhong got extremely embarrassed and decided to move back and stay at the formal main hall. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 2, Campaign in the Land Under Heaven. Chapter 63, Ambush. Those carefree days didn't last long. 10 days later, the imperial edict arrived in Yuncheng. Emperor Hongzheng first praised Jing Shao profusely and then ordered him to immediately lead his troops to the southeast to quell the rebellion of the Southeast King who harbored the rebellious Southwest King and for trying to assassinate an imperial prince. Along with the imperial edict came the governor of Guangdong and Guangxi who had been temporarily assigned to take over the government affairs of the Southwest fiefdom. The Southwest had always been governed by the vassal kings. Now that it had suddenly returned under the control of the imperial court, there were more than 100 things that needed to be done. The emperor had already given the governor a secret order earlier on to take over the governance of the Southwest once the rebellion had been quelled. The governor had thought that it would take at least a year or two for that to happen, but unexpectedly, it took Prince Cheng a measly 2 months to accomplish this. The governor had a feeling that his gray-flecked beard would quickly turn completely white. Jing Shao was very glad that his imperial father did not order him to stay to deal with governmental affairs. Thus, he patted the governor who had a miserable expression on his face and set off on the very same day with an indifferent air. The Southeast fiefdom was not connected to the Southwest fiefdom. Between the two was the provinces of Guangdong and Guangxi. These two provinces had been known to be the home of exiles. The towns were scattered and sparsely populated, however, the scenery was quite beautiful. There were many mountain ranges, clear streams, and waterfalls. It was really a feast to one's eyes. In autumn, the weather was no longer so hot. When the scenery was nice, Jing Shao would pull out the person inside the carriage to ride Xiao He with him. Because the little tiger had gained weight again, Jing Shao refused to let it ride on top of his horse, so it could only felt aggrieved as it slumped against the window and looked outside forlornly. The Right Protectorate General looked at the military advisor who was comfortably using His Highness as his backrest. After riding for several days, his own back couldn't help but felt sore. The Left Protectorate General noticed how he was squirming about on his horse and gradually came closer and said, "If you are tired, come ride with me." When the troop was marching rapidly and was riding night and day without stopping, the two of them would ride the same horse together and take turns resting, so the suggestion by the Left Protectorate General wasn't too strange, however. Hearing these words, the Right Protectorate General finally realized something. The relationship between myself and His Highness is the same as the relationship between that of the Right Protectorate General and the Left Protectorate General. The prince consort words on that day was still ringing in his ears. He looked at the couple in front of him and then looked at the expressionless face of the Left Protectorate General. It seemed as if he had been struck by lightning and he almost fell off his horse. "Who said I'm tired? Go away." The Right Protectorate General waved at the Left Protectorate General as if he was shooing away flies. Then he spurred his horse forward to catch up with Zhao Meng, who was in front of him. The journey was not too far, but the mountains were high and the bodies of water were too wide. They had to take a roundabout route for more than half a month before they arrived at Liangyi Mountain. In the beginning of the world, the supreme deity created Liangyi. Liangyi referred to yin and yang. Liangyi mountain was named as such because there was a tremendous difference between the two sides of the mountain. On the southeast side, it rose from a small hilly area in an imposing stature. If one were standing at the foot of the mountain and looked up, one would get the feeling that this majestic landform was hiding the sky and covering the earth, very overwhelming. Liangyi was thus named as a representative of yin and yang. Liangyi mountain was a large mountain range, but it was the shortest way to the southeast. Mu Hanzhong sat in the carriage, looking at the mountains outside the window and frowning slightly. The mountains here were so high and the roads were situated between these towering peaks. It would be dangerous if they encountered an ambush. This area is not within the scope of the southeastern fiefdom. Who would come to ambush us here? Said Zhao Meng, who came over to have a chat with him. This place is about 100 li away from the vassal state. Maybe I'm just worrying too much. Mu Hanzhong pursed his lips and looked down at the Bishui Sutra annotations in his hand. The book said that Liangyi Mountain was the largest mountain range in the southeast. Behind and in front of the Liangyi Mountain range were only parallel roads where pedestrians travel back and forth between the imposing peaks. Jing Xiao said that in his dream, he did not pass through the Liangyi Mountain and instead, turned back to the southeast from the south of the Yangtze River and marched on the flat land along the coast. So this time, he had no idea what they would encounter along the way. Wow! Xiao Huang noticed that its master had not been paying attention to it for a long while. It threw itself on the book on his hand and with its sharp claws, it scratched the page depicting Liangyi Mountain with a scratching sound. Mu Hanzhong slowly moved the book out of its paw's reach, tooling the fur on the tiger's head in passing. The little tiger had grown a lot. It was only as long as an arm's length at the beginning, but now, it was about 2 qi long and had gained a lot of weight. Mu Hanzhong pinched its paw pads that were still pink and fleshy from running around too much. They were soft and warm, so he couldn't help but pinch them a few more times. Xiao Huang squatted down obediently and let its master knead its paws. Mu Hanzhong scratched the little tiger's head and lowered his head to read a book again. The little tiger rubbed against his legs and lay down on its back, revealing its white belly covered in fine fluffy fur. It raised its head and stretched out its claws to try and reach the book once again. Mu Hanzhong laughed and took out a small piece of dried meat to feed it. Nay, suddenly the neighing sound of horses came from the front, and the carriage stopped with a bang. Mu Hanzhong hurriedly held onto the wall of the carriage to steady himself. He opened the curtain of the carriage and looked out. The cavalry in front was a bit chaotic. Smoke and dust rolled in the distance with the sound of horse hooves getting closer. Jing Xiao sat upright on his horse and looked coldly at the black mass of the enemy cavalry in front of him, charging menacingly on the narrow road. He speculated that that old southeast traitor wouldn't wait for death quietly. "Cavalry, retreat!" Jing Xiao ordered in a clear voice as he raised his hand. The infantry quickly rushed forward from behind with their spears and iron shields in a formation that would protect each other. With their shields clacking, they lined up in a long row, sealing off the mountain road tightly. At the same time, the archers lined up behind the shields and began to shoot the incoming enemies with a swish, swish, swish. The strongest force of the Southeast Army was their archers, so it was a must that they strike first. Thousands of arrows were fired at once, like thousands of birds suddenly soaring into the sky. After the magnificent sound that they made as they cut through the air, there came the neighing of war horses and the wails of soldiers. The enemy did not expect Jing Xiao to react so quickly. If their reaction had been delayed for even just a moment, they would have been able to rush into the shooting range of Jing Xiao's cavalry, but their way was now blocked. Not long after, the enemy's arrows came shooting through the air. However, they could only reach the infantry but could not reach the cavalry behind them. Some of the infantry soldiers fell to the ground one after another. Jing Xiao ordered the infantry to spread out and stand in a yoke formation, leaving half of the space open. The number of people being hit by the arrows dropped significantly, but some still couldn't block or avoid them. Jing Xiao sat unmoving on his horse and waited for the opponent's rain of arrow to subside. He then called out coldly, "Zhao Meng! Here!" When Zhao Meng heard his name, he immediately rode forward. "Lead 500 cavalry soldiers and break their archers' formation." Jing Xiao raised his silver spear and pointed at the person in the center of the arrow formation. That man was clearly the general in charge of the archers' troop. However, he wasn't sure if he was the same godly archer general whom he had encountered in the 18th year of the Hongzhen era in the previous life. "Yes, Your Highness." Zhao Meng raised his broadsword and rushed out first. The 500 cavalry soldiers formed a pointed cone shape which cut through the infantry shield formation and rushed straight towards the opponent's troop. Zhao Meng took the lead, running and waving his broadsword to block the arrows coming his way. Such a desperate charge would inevitably lead to the loss of some cavalry soldiers. The opponent did not expect that they would use this tactic and directly attack in order to shorten their shooting range. The Southeastern Army, which had placed the archers at the forefront, changed their formation in a panic, but it was too late. "Kill!" Seeing this situation, the opponent's general waved his hand and led the cavalry to rush forward, shouting a rally cry that shook the sky at that moment. Mu Hanzhang lifted the carriage curtain again and frowned at the battle situation. The opponent's cavalry broke through Zhao Meng's cone formation and attacked the infantry. Jing Xiao turned his head to glance at him and said, "Jun Qing, don't come out." He gestured to the left and right protectorate general, and the two men immediately led the two teams forward a few steps. It didn't seem like much of a change, but a formation was formed that firmly protected the four sides of the carriage. The cavalry encountered the spears blocking the front row and immediately started fighting. Wielding his Han Yuan sword, Hao Das Hao charged forward with the other cavalry soldiers. He cut off the head of the enemy cavalry soldier in front of him, which immediately boosted the morale of their troops. At this moment, a sudden change occurred, and a group of southeastern troops suddenly rushed out from behind the mountain stream on the left, cutting off the infantry formation behind the cavalry. Jing Xiao signaled Hao Das Hao to continue to withstand the cavalry in front while he quickly turned his horse's head. The commander of the Shu army in the back immediately understood and led the infantry soldiers to charge forward and block the soldiers and horses that had yet to cross the mountain stream and step on the mountain road. The mountain stream was clear and shallow, but soon it became dyed red with blood. The sound of horse hooves splashing through water grew louder as a group of cavalry soldiers followed closely behind the infantry and rushed out of the blocked pathway. The leader was courageous and unstoppable. He had killed 3 cavalrymen in succession, then directly attacked Jing Xiao with a green dragon halberd. Jing Xiao leaned up and raised his spear to block the crescent blade of the halberd head. He flipped his wrist and pressed sideways, pressing the green dragon halberd under the silver spear. Sitting by the carriage window, Mu Hanzhang frowned as he watched Jing Xiao fight with the other man. He was worried. Suddenly he heard the sound of something cutting through the air. Then he saw a sharp arrow passing through the layers of people and shooting straight towards Jing Xiao's back. The left protectorate general pulled out the sharp blade from his waist and cut off the menacing arrows with a slash of his sword. It turned out that the position where he and the right protectorate general had taken was not only to help protect the carriage but was also to obstruct any attack on Prince Cheng coming from the 2 directions. Mu Hanzhang secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that he wasn't much of a help on the actual battlefield, so he would naturally not go out of his way to cause trouble. The man who fought against Jing Xiao was highly skilled in martial arts. He wielded a green dragon halberd to the point of perfection. He struck straight at Jing Xiao's heart with a shovel move. Jing Xiao's silver spear slipped between his arms and moved in front of his chest to block the strike. He flipped his spear around and twisted the crescent blade to stab at the man's eyes. The other person was shocked and quickly parried the attack. He never expected that at such a young age, Prince Cheng was already such an expert with the spear, to the point where the man and the spear seemed to move as one. He wielded the spear like it was a part of his body, and his strikes and counter-attacks were extremely accurate. The man turned sideways to avoid Jing Xiao's attack, holding the flat blade of the green dragon halberd across his chest, clamping the smooth silver spear firmly between the iron halberd and the armor, unable to move. A sneer curled up at the corners of Jing Xiao's lips. He suddenly released his grip on his spear. The man leaned back due to the excessive force. Soon after, when the white horse passed by, Jing Xiao suddenly pulled out the long sword from his waist and cut the man's throat with the sword. Then he quickly grabbed back the spear shaft as he struck the man hard in the chest and threw him off his horse. Godly spear skills. How killed the last enemy cavalryman. When he looked back and saw Jing Xiao's last move, he couldn't help but exclaimed in admiration. It took more than 10 years of hard work to achieve that kind of accuracy. Despite Prince Cheng's young age, he had already attained such expertise. He was truly an innately talented prodigy. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The successive sound of whistling in the air suddenly roused everyone who were immersed in their rejoicing. Jing Xiao turned around suddenly and saw 3 arrows shooting straight towards him in the shape of a character with the upper arrow in the middle and the lower arrows to the left and right sides. 3 arrows fired at once. It's the godly archer general. Jing Xiao's eyes widened suddenly. The reason why he didn't dodge back then was because these 3 arrows were fired in unison. They were divided into pin shapes just in front of him, sealing all his escape routes. If he dodged one arrow, he wouldn't be able to dodge the other 2. Given the situation, most people would subconsciously dodge to one side or the other. Jing Xiao! Mu Hanzhong exclaimed, watching helplessly as the 3 arrows struck at Jing Xiao, who did not dodge and stayed in place, letting the arrows shoot straight towards his body. End chapter.